sidestep of that cyberpunk experience. So the electronics and the neatness of it without the bad dystopian parts that, like where you got the boomer robots running around and ripping everybody's head off or whatever, like you had in the older cyberpunk experiences of comic books. And
Welcome to Metaverse Degen. I'm your friendly orange apricot lion.
Now you're going to an apricot. Was a tangerine. Well, I'm Old Man Raptor. Sorry about that. I got off on a fucking Twilight Zone. And our guest is...
Ooh.
And I'm Fjrn. Yay.
Oh.
Hey, today's guest, I think.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure. So thank you for giving us your time, man.
We appreciate it, Fjrn.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
What is it you're most known for here in VR chat, and how did you get started in VR chat and VR?
Well, we do. I'm known for the shows that I throw. We do big concerts we have a band called the RG Beans, which is a lot of fun. We started this about 2 years ago, and all of us that are in the band have some amount of full body. And so, we got somebody who bangs the drums, someone, a couple people who play guitar and do the different things. And of course we have our singers and stuff. And I've built a couple of big stages with sphinxes that look around and light the audience on fire, and lasers and UFOs and all sorts of craziness just happening the whole time, screens that are all broken apart. And so it's a spectacle show more than it is like a live thing. So the music's typically all, music that I can get a hold of, and we lip sync to it. So we're just, I've heard that we can swear on here. If that's still true, then, we just all jump around like a bunch of jackasses.
But do it anyhow. Nobody else gives a fuck. Go right a fucking head. We don't care.
So we just kind of jump around like a bunch of jackasses, and that's a whole lot of fun. And other than that, had kind of got a lot of a start in the Slime server doing a lot of things, and they're kind of my go-to audience, so to speak. And of course, I am the Slime user that has the vibes on as we speak. And I'm not the only one, but it's kind of funny because, we do a lot with it. And one of their main creators over there is my best friend. I'll shout him out. It's ZRock35, and he's my best friend. He's been my best friend for almost 3 years now, and he does all of their Calibrate and Chat events, which are like, I try to go to as many of them as I can. And then at those, he just helps everybody get their stuff straightened out if you're having issues, which is a small percentage of the population there. But when you have thousands of people, it feels very busy. And so, I've tried to help him some with those things. And we do yoga classes and fighting classes and all the kind of things that you might, think of to do. And other than that, I also make avatars. This is my own creation, ground up. Other than the clothes came from, I think his name is pronounced Zelyo. Oh, but I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it. So I got the commercial license for the clothing, but other than that, she's scratch built, ground up, and did all of it. And of course, we always have people who hang out in the server that help out a little bit here and there, that know little bits that you don't know, which is like, really, I think if you strive to become any kind of creator, you want that. You absolutely want that friend base. Even if your friends don't seem to know as much as you, they might know a couple little things that will just absolutely save your life. So.
Fair. It sounds like you're up to a lot, man. How did you get into VR and started with all this?
Well, I think, really, to me, as kind of a child of the 80s, and I was born in the 70s, and so as we came along and the 80s happened, and video games were really coming up, I had the actual Pong machine that was just turn and click, two buttons that did the same thing, and the little waggle stick like that, you turned. Nothing real special there, but it was special to me because it was the first time we ever seen anything like it. And as we kind of progressed and the Nintendo came around, one of the shows that was influential to me was the Nintendo Power style with Captain N and show. I don't know if anyone in the audience has ever even seen this or not, but it was a show where basically the first of, in my experience at least, where the player got pulled into the game world and then he has to fight and save the princess and kill the Metroids. And of course, nothing is resolved because it's a kid's cartoon. But, so it kind of started the dream of being inside the machine. And as, we got into things like, a lot of people's, I think, first exposure to this type of thing was like Ready Player One, where Ready Player One is kind of more of a future type of scape. This was really like from the early days. And I still feel like we're in the early days of VR. And I think that they're kind of a parallel because what's in here is typically about what you can artistically draw onto paper, or it's not, usually hyper real or anything. Things look somewhat flat and 2.5D in some cases, where other things are extremely 3D. But it kind of got the in. And so, as early as I could, I became a VR adopter. And my first set was literally like a Google Cardboard type of setup. And I got the PlayStation VR, the original one, and man, that thing made me sick as a dog.
I very much understand. I've used the exact same thing, and the screen door effect on that piece of hardware is horrendous.
It was, yeah, that was, but I didn't mind that. I really didn't mind that so much. I was able to kind of ignore that, and I was playing the Valkyrie game that they had, which is like, it's not even a flight simulator because it's more like a space simulator. And so the craft goes upside down and then, you don't even have to roll it over because everything is right side up in space. And man, I was just like making myself sick left and right. And I was kind of learning how to like tilt my head. So like I would do that, then I would turn the craft into my head tilt. So it would really kind of help me out. And I did as much of I could with that machine. And then when I saw the Quest, the first one, and for a couple $100, it was like, dude, I am getting that right there. That is absolutely happening. So, with that, it was like, yes, this is so cool. This is so cool. Like, how could you, you can't deny that felt like it was inside. And that's about the first time I got into VR chat. And I think the funny story was some of the first avatars I found were Hopkins, and I was like, oh, these are cute. Like, and Hobart did a great job of translating a interesting woodland furry creature, and like I was already a furry, so it just kind of became like, oh yeah, I'll adopt this for now. And there was a guy in the regular home space. I'm not friends with him at this point anymore, not for any particular reason, but he was like a Spider-Man, and he felt very Miles Morales to me. Like he's kind of a timid Spider-Man. And then he's like, oh, I want to go to this haunted map where there's like crazy stuff. He's like, and I need someone to go because it's too scary. And I'm like, you want me, a little Hopkins, to go with you, big bad Spider-Man, and protect you from the scary ghosts and stuff?
Wow. Oh my God.
Oh.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was very interesting. And it kind of set in like what this could be. And as I started to look around and found stuff, it became like all the things. And so it was like it kind of converged into everything. And as a few of my friends were starting to get like full body tracking and that sort of thing, it was like, yeah, this is the way to go. Like I can, now I'm all the way up to having a Beyond, and the big screen Beyond, which is a wonderful machine to have. have, and it's so neat. Like everything in here is just so crystal clear, or with this versus especially the early quests, and I skipped the quest 3 altogether, or as one would if you end up with this machine, I think. But that, man, like what a jump. Each graphics card, and like this has become what me and my friends always joke is the most expensive free game you'll ever play. Because by the time you rebuild your computer twice and you're on your third graphics card and it's the latest and greatest that you can possibly wrap your head around and spending $1,600 on or whatever, and you're like, oh my goodness, why am I spending this amount of money? And I know the graphics are still going to be terrible.
So from back when you were first getting into the thought of being in a virtual world, when you like in the 80s, when you're telling us about the Nintendo Power Hour to now, did you expect VR or any form of metaverse to get this far to where it is?
That's really kind of a difficult question, because as I think at that time it seemed unlikely, okay, because 8-bit graphics were what there was, and like I think the coolest game at the time was probably a Still Dragon's Lair, but it was a hand frame drawn video game, and it was like it kind of showed the power of what could be done with a little creativity. But it wasn't a good game. It played like garbage, but you were there throwing quarters in that machine because you wanted to see the whole of it, and that was really kind of what it became. So with that, it was like I didn't know if this would ever come to any sort of fruition. And there's my best friend now, right there. That's Z-Rock himself.
Hey.
So
Hello.
How's it going?
So I feel like when we got all up into the dream of it, like I really felt like it was a fairly unobtainable dream, and as it looked like it was starting to come around, I mean the first, I can't remember what was that VR Game Boy machine they had. It was something
Virtual Boy.
Yeah, Virtual Boy, that one's it. And my goodness, was that a bad, terrible thing. And like it was a bunch of lines on the screen, and it wasn't 3D. It was 2D fully, with your head down on the table, and it wasn't getting there. It was like, oh no, this is bad. It's really bad. And so it became the thing where it was like, I don't think that this is it. And it only had 2 colors, which were red and black. So there wasn't even white or green or anything to really kind of indicate to you that you were in any kind of real space. And as we were watching that, I think the Sega Saturn was coming out at a similar time, and it was kind of awful, and I really hated it. And especially after having the Genesis, which felt very arcade quality, this thing felt like a leap backwards in time. And it really wasn't until the Dreamcast hit that something really felt like we were moving forward with it again, because the graphics seemed so good on that. It was like it's getting close to possible, but I don't think anyone had understood the full range of challenges that would need to be met to actually achieve the level of fidelity needed to wear a set of televisions on your face to make this really happen in a clear and succinct sort of way. And I think as we go along in this, like, we're in the early baby steps of this still right now. And I think that, soon it will be just kind of a Geordie vibe, but it will kind of act as just a complete interface, and it will, give you a nearly full-scopic view, so your POV and stuff is really gonna behave and act correctly. So I think I think we got a long ways to go, as good as this might be, to reach that fully realized dream. But I think the Wild West of this nature of VR chat is really, I think, what it kind of wraps this up nicely, because you really get that, one-to-one feeling. You feel like you're here. I feel like I'm this. Like in any of the avatars that I've really connected with, like I think it's important that you get a avatar that you really connect to in a, you know, in a physical manner. It doesn't have to be the same size as you or the same build as you. It just needs to feel like the other you that you would project out. And, that part of the dream is fully realized. And I think that is the most interesting part of what we do in here, is kind of becoming another you. As I think Second Life wanted to do that really badly, and they kind of got wayside because they didn't keep up with the trends. And I almost fear the same thing eventually for VR chat, if they don't hold up what they're doing and probably eventually switch engines and things. A lot of stuff is going to be lost along the way, but what can be gained moving forward is going to be better than what's lost from going back. Heck, and people will adapt. So looking forward to something like that.
Here's some positive news. I was watching a video today about Second Life and all of that, and one of the reasons why Second Life hasn't really progressed into like the VR edition, like VR chat is the owners and creators have zero intent on going there. They want it to remain where it is, like the kind of style it is. So there is that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's like VR chat in the fact that the users can put things in, and then it's a user created experience for the most part, and I think that's fair enough. And so you get that type of feel. But yeah, I think, like, if for anyone out there who's really played VR chat on their PC only, or even in Quest standalone only, I think you've really missed out on what this is. Like, you got to have the headset. You've got to have some portal to really get in correctly, so you can experience it the way the creators have best intended it, because that's really it. The Quest version is so almost unfortunate because it's buggy, it's laggy, and you get almost none of the graphics. You don't get the cool holograms, you don't get the shaders, you don't get lasers at dance halls and shows, and you don't get like 90% of it. And it's like you're missing so much of what makes it good, that it's almost incomparable, I think, to like any thought. That, because I'm pretty sure I signed up for this game about a year before I actually really started playing it in VR, and I kind of looked around for about 10 minutes and I went, meh.
Fair.
And it almost made me reluctant to come back. Yeah.
We know that one. We hear quite a bit of that one. I got a question for him, Line, if I don't fall off the edge of this.
Well, let's kick you off,
since you
then.
mentioned... Oh, boy.
I like
He's great. He's great.
I like him.
Shut up! What the hell? What French for, right? Yeah, keep your enemies closer. What the fuck? The question I have for you is where you were talking about, because I'm interested. I've got the Quest 2. It's getting at the stage. I bought mine when it first came out in October, and I was way before that. I was a stiffy, running off just a computer and everything else like that. And I've got slimes coming whenever they get there. What would you mention for somebody that's coming in knowing it's like you said, it's not a cheap, it's a free game that you pay a lot just to get the enjoyment, what's in it. The gear that you're running now, you're on the big screen beyond. Give us a little insight, because we've been trying to find, I've only found one other person I've talked to that's had the slimes and the big screen beyond, and he gave me a few pointers and stuff like that. And he was real nice. If you're going to go that route, come look me up. And that's what's great about VR. If you got something and there's somebody out there to help you, even if it's just slightly, give us a little input on that. I'm really curious about that.
Okay, so to begin with, I think I think we could start at the top and say if you have, a 3090 or better, or a big screen beyond, it might be something you want, especially if you have maybe already had an index, or you decided your Quest needed index controllers so you could run your hands. And I'm sure I'm not the only person who went that route. I had all of the index except for the index itself. So the Beyond was a natural next step. But, when you start looking at it being $1,000 machine, you're like, whew, that's a cliff jump to get there. And, really it was a matter of luck that I was able to really secure enough money to get it, and along with multiple of the PC parts. And, whenever you throw in stuff on a credit card and you've maxed it out, I don't think that that's necessarily the way to go. So, but the big screen is about as clear of a image as you can get. It does have a few small drawbacks, and most of them are literally in the lens. And so what you kind of get is you get as the light jumps back and forth between the inside of the pancake lens, it will cause kind of a almost like when you see those photos as of the sun and it's got little like trail coming down of other suns, it'll kind of do that under certain bright circumstances. So that's a little bit of a drawback, and it's corded. That's probably other biggest thing in this era of machines, is that you really, like, if you can ditch a cord, that's really kind of a great thing, because my cord kind of comes out about here. I got my hands on it now, and I've got it on a pulley, so it goes back up where it started, but it does limit the number of times you can spin around or do certain things. And so, if you need that absolute freedom and you're willing to go down just a small step, I think the Quest 3 or the Quest Pro, if you need face tracking, is a good way to go, because the Quest S3 has a near to his set of panels, but they're not as hard to run as this particular machine. But this machine really has the comfort. And I think if you're addicted to this game and you're going to spend, 1,800 hours in here, comfort is a top-notch thing that is hard to receive. A very large individual, by nature standards. So, I'm about 6'4" an American, and my hands fit inside my index controllers. I don't even button them in. Like they're not coming off. Like they're just slid onto my hands. My hands barely fit in them. And so, then the trackers for my feet and things are very small in accordance to me. Okay. And that can be kind of a good and bad thing, because they are sensitive to a little bit of occlusion.
Uh-oh.
So if you have the room and you have the money, I would still say start with something like the Quest 2 or the Quest 3. At this point, I would just say go ahead and bite the extra $100 off and get the Quest 3. And if you really like it, then kind of come in and upgrade as you see fit. Because I run into a lot of people just through and throughout, because I always wear my shirts with my art and stuff on it, and people ask me questions about it, and they go, well, I've got a Quest 2 and I played it for a week and it's sat in my closet ever since. And I go, oh man, like you're missing out. Like you failed somewheres along the way where you didn't get the core experience and you gave up, and I think there's a lot of people that do that. And a Quest 3 is easy to, if you decide that's your route and you put it on and you go, this isn't for me, you can just put it on eBay and resell it. You can put it on Facebook Marketplace or anywheres you can resell something and, recover 90% of your money just almost instantly, where something like the Beyond, it is actually fitted to your exact face, is not going to resell nearly as easily, okay, to someone who has a different interpupillary distance than you, and someone who has, a different face shape than you, because this machine is so ultra specific to its user that I don't think it's the good place to start. I think it's the good place to go. And really, like, if you're going to go cheap, you can do the slimes. There's a lot of things inside the slime community you can do. You can get the Haratori X equipment and run it over the slime servers. There's, I know, the Mocapi, which seem a little subpar at this point, and are very expensive for this, what they are, can also be converted into slime. So, I mean, slimes originally kind of started out as the uwu trackers, because it was obviously not made by any furries or anything like that at all. So, oh wait, yeah, it was.
Careful, don't tell the non-furries that they may throw their slimes out.
I more than guarantee you that somebody was into horned lizards that made all of these vibes. So why else would they make them spiky? I don't know. I wear my stuff on my sleeve a little bit more, and I'm the idiot that has the large Bad Dragon sticker on the back of their truck.
Oh no! Oh. Not
as popular with the grocery store crowd as some people are, but it's a life.
Very brave place for your Bad Dragon stickers, the back of your truck.
Yeah, it's the best spot for them though. Grab a drink here real quick.
Oh. Yeah. So to break into some other things you do, you mentioned you're part of a band in from VR RGBs. It sounds like you do some work in worlds and avatars. How did you get into all of that?
Well, I feel like it's almost become a necessity. It's kind of the thing, because as when you first start getting in here, you'll probably kind of gravitate towards a certain type of avatar, and it's really like I don't know, a lot of the Rexes I find, like not in a prejudice way, but I find that there's a lot of more German type people really like the Rexes, and they stick with them for a long time. And there's certain crowds, I think, that kind of have different ideas because of the areas they're raised in and how furry kind of relates to them. So I think when you kind of find your avatar, you'll start recoloring it, you'll start customizing it a bit, or having someone else do it. And then after a while, you kind of want your own thing. Like, if, you saw this one the other day when I first got it together, and, there's only a handful of people that currently have this avatar. So, and that's neat. And the last one that I had is kind of in the same boat. I think there's 25 people that own it at this point. And so there's not a ton of them running around. And that kind of makes it unique to you. So not only is it just the color might be unique, but the shape and, the style and size of it is all uniquely yourself. And I think that that's a really neat thing. And so for the worlds, it's kind of goes into the same idea. Like, if you need a world like this, it's quiet and kind of like a place you might want to go and just walk around where you might think, then this would be the sort of thing that maybe you would make. And if this doesn't exist for you, you almost have no choice but to make it. So the kind of concert worlds we needed, really, it was the sort of thing where, like, first stage was a box, and you're inside the box, and the box has a stage, and it's all pitched down towards the, actual stage itself. The stage has a couple of elevated boxes on it with the drums, and we're like, we could do more. So I started working on more. and we got out of that stage. I kind of replicated the MTV stage in a place called Aquacoustics X, which is still available, and it's a very pillows on the ground and sit down in front of the carousel with the glass on top, and it's got the little fish particles above, hence the aqua part of it being aquacoustic. And it gives you a very live performance type of vibe, and it's plain, it's dark, and it's simple. The lighting is very simple and easy to run, and the mirror is about this high, which kind of gets people to come in. They turn the mirror on and they go, "Oh, I can't see my head," and you know what they instantly do? They sit down. Which is exactly what you want an acoustic audience to do. So you kind of guide the audience through the mirror, because that's what most people like to do, is hang out and look at themselves while they're doing it, because they're trying to get used to what they are in the mirror. So, as they're doing that, it's kind of an interesting thing, because they'll follow the mirror in the world. And so if the mirror is small, they'll sit down and then they'll enjoy the performance and get there. And then we have the other one is the Temple of Epilepsy, also known as toe beans. And so the name is both a warning thing and sort of a signifier of what's going to happen there. It is, very temple-like. You have very large kind of Mayan pyramid head, and we have two very extremely large sphinxes that sit up above everything. And they look around. So there's actually, the DJ has a ball that he can control, and it works their head at any direction he wants them to look, and they can blow water out of their mouth. So it makes like a waterfall that can be turned off, and then they can blow fire out of their mouth very widely over the audience. And then, of course, they have lasers in their eyeballs. Who wouldn't want that? And so, they can kind of do a crazy, neat headbanging along with the audience. And we usually kind of like, I like to play kind of a metal-y techno type of thing that has words. A good band that sometimes we'll pick on will be They Will Never Be the Same, is an interesting band. The Neutronic is a good band for that type of thing, because it feels like the future that we're promised in here. And because we're always kind of trying to move towards that, I like that vibe of moving towards, like, not a cyberpunk utopian experience, but kind of a sidestep of that cyberpunk experience. So the electronics and the neatness of it, without the bad dystopian parts that, like where you got the boomer robots running around and, ripping everybody's head off or whatever, like you had in the older cyberpunk experiences of comic books and movies. Like, I've grown up with stuff like, Bubblegum Crisis and that sort of thing, like AD Police and all those fun animes, that were around. I mean, like, I got right over there's actually a poster in my room, and it features the Puma twins, and it's from the 80 Police series, or Dominion at that, and because all those series run together, and it says Experience Japanimation down the side of it. Like, that gives you an idea of the age of that poster. I've had it since, I was just kind of a wee lad, and it's like I can't believe it's still in as good a shape as it's in, and it's behind glass at this point, but it was hung on my wall with thumbtacks for a long time. So yeah, kind of an interesting thing. And yeah, I think as, like, as a furry, I feel like you're almost adjacent to the anime crowd just by the nature of it, and don't necessarily know where I'm going with this as a conversation. I think I got derailed somewhere along the way. Anyhow.
It's A-okay. A lot of the conversations we have
do it all the time.
Derails, side tracks, and side tangents are very common. Hell, Raptor and I are also prone to them as well, so Don't feel bad.
Fuck, you do it all the time. Don't feel it. Just enjoy it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think ultimately the way that it ends up kind of going is, those are also kind of that promise, the cyber world, the experience, the Ghost in the Shell, the Matrix, those kind of things all are, that in the machine feel. Oh, and like I think that's what we're striving for or here ultimately, is moving towards something like that. And I think as the gear gets more comfortable, lighter weight, easier to wear, I feel like it was almost unfortunate the direction Apple went. I really kind of thought maybe they would release a first really lightweight a machine for everyone. And they just kind of went, oh, we're going to make it heavy with metal and glass, and it will be very on brand. And it is that. But, like with that machine, I kind of struggled to figure out who it's for. And there's something that could be said, I'm sure, for spatial computing and the AR type experience. But I think people that are in this game and people that are around the VR equipment, more specifically, are almost hyper focused towards this type of experience here, where we can kind of come in and go, okay, this is the experience we want. We want to be inside the machine itself. We don't want the machine overlaid. We come here to escape our real life, not to enhance it. And I think that's the important distinction and between VR and almost all other forms of XR type entertainment.
Well, in the long scheme of things, even with Apple only doing the AR or spatial computing kind of headset, I still think as an overarching scheme of what we all are take part in, I think in the long run, it'll push us towards the future with smaller headsets. Because I think Apple's headset is designated for the Apple user. The person who sees the brand new Apple 99, I gotta have it, and they buy it. They have the iHome, the Apple computer at
Very
home,
much
the
so.
Apple laptop. Everything connects. They are paying for extended Apple storage over in the iCloud and stuff like that. It's for that person. But because Apple is doing it and people are interested in it, it will signify to the rest of the market there is interest here. And people will start building towards those kinds of things. Hello. I'm interrupting the content you're currently watching, which is amazing content. You should go check out more of that, by the way. Either way, I'm actually here to make a request of you. Would you mind following us on any of your social media? We have a Discord. We're hanging out and doing things as well. We have some cool future projects we're kind of working on. You'll see hints of it in our Discord, or you can just come hang out and talk with us for updates, and also chatting as well over on Twitter. You follow LionTurtle21, which is me, and you can get some other stuff over that way. We also have a Patreon, which we are doing some back of house content, like you see us as a friend group hanging out, or we also have an extra show we're working on. And with that said, we have two people who also joined our Patreon as well, which is Training Fangs and a Forbidden Zero. So thank you both. And thank you for watching the content, because none of this would be continued without people such as yourself. So thank you very much. I won't keep it any longer. I know how these can get really annoying. Enjoy.
Right. Yeah. I think that, for me, that small interview they had, this will age like milk, but the interview they did with Mark Zuckerberg, where he had kind of said, well, the Quest 3 is better in a lot of ways, I don't think that he's wrong, but I think that you're also correct that they further his ambition too by being available. Like, it does move people in that may have never looked, but I'm not always sure that we want the everyman in here. I think sometimes we do want our own crowds, because I think the thing that's a common complaint about what happens in VR chat, more particularly than most places, is the questy kid crowd. And when I say a questy, I don't mean someone who has it hooked to their computer, or an adult enjoying VR chat with their standalone phone as best they can. I'm really talking about the people who almost just use the machine as a babysitter for their kids. And, you know, I think once you find that there's worlds that you can go to that don't have that, and you get a friend group that isn't that, like it really kind of frees this thing up and goes, you're like, like I feel at home in here. Like, and I've never even visited this world, but you know, the lighting's nice, the moon's out, you know, the clouds are very streaky and nice. I'm sure it's a fairly standard skybox. I don't feel like I've seen this one before. And it looks like, you know, Sweet Home Alabama in the background. But you know, it has an unreal feel as well as it has a slightly real feel. And I think that that's kind of what we're all here to escape, because if this isn't your thing and maybe your thing is more of a cyber experience. I found a world the other day where you could lie in a puddle of slime and it would trail up your arms and like, keep you kind of trapped in it. And it was fun. It was fun to play around with because you don't get to do that in real life, you know? Oh, the bed where it like waves you up and down and all these various experiences is, I mean, you can learn how to fly an airplane. You can, go jet skiing even if you're old and busted or young and busted or whatever, like there's so many things to do in here. And it keeps me really coming back for all the experiences. Sometimes all I want to do is just lay back and, throw a mirror above me and just lay there and go, oh. And I think that's okay. Like, and other times, we're wanting to jump around and do things and play, hopscotch across razor blades and things you really, can't or shouldn't ever do in real life. It's not very often you get to pretend you're Superman or Spider-Man or something like that, and it's, someone who's come from a lot of cosplay too, and several fursuits, this isn't like that in a lot of respects, because when you're in here, you're fully embodying it. And a fursuit surrounds you. It makes you sweat. It makes you feel like you're a separated part from your fursuit, but the fursuit is a struggle in itself. And, any good-looking costume will probably also be quite a struggle in itself, where this is the same couple of pieces of gear, a couple of things on your feet, your hands in your head, and you're pretty much good to go, because most of the rest of us are already wearing some type of pants, so you have a belt or a belt-like structure on, so it's not that much. And if you have a couple of extra trackers here or there, it's typically not that big of a deal. So I feel like this is the ultimate step in. And for those, I think, who are unsure about FBT, kind of to circle back to where we came from, that I think they should probably initially avoid it for the first few bits, get used to being in here and see if it's for you. I think small investments in small steps gets you a lot further, because I mean, like, I very much just remember moving from an RX 580 to a 1660 Super, and then moving up the ladder, and I ended up with a 3070 Ti, and each step of the way it was like it was better and better. And when we started doing the concerts, it really became, I want to see everyone. Like, when all these people show up and we have 50 people, I need the maximum amount of RAM. So I went ahead and bought the 3090 when they got down to about $1,000. And it was like, man, it felt like a plunge for someone who already has a 3070 Ti. Because graphically it's not really much different, but as far as the amount of things you can load and the world not struggle and keep up with your frame rate, it's a lot better. And I would probably like to also shout out Virtual Desktop at the same time, because they're really the connection device that I used for years to get between the Quest and my PC. And without that being there, like, Oculus's solution for that, the Oculus Link, really was kind of a no good thing. And I even bought the official device, and I had it for a little while, and I sold it back off because it just really was not a great experience. It was like, it was buggy and laggy and had a lot of like ripping and moving, and it felt bad. And it's funny that a third party piece of software does what their software and hardware can't for them. And I think as long as there's people like that out there developing these things, this stuff will continue to push forward hard. Hard. And, I think that that's where it's at. And, slimes are good. And one of the things that is neat about them, you'll see when you get them, is that they're basically ineccludable. So if, I live in Florida, so we never wear covers here, but, people that are in colder areas that want to throw a blanket on, I think that's one of the other places we could go, is the type of people that you run into, because, we have like people from Sweden and England and the US and, just all over the globe. And it's so neat being able to see and talk to everybody, with everyone's different accents. But, a lot of those places are cold. And so those that have slimes, they'll bundle up in their blanket, and they're, just kind of laying there, sitting there with their blankets on top, and still feeling the immersion that you get from having that full body. Okay. And I think that that's a really interesting thing, because it kind of gets you there, and keeps you there, where, if you have your Vives on, the moment you throw covers over them, you're in the same position you left them in until you uncover them, and they might just kind of drift off, at worst. And then you're going to be kind of over there instead of over here, and that's no fun. But, like in Florida, I don't know, it's for the last couple of years here, we haven't even had anything that I would call winter, or it gets down to 60 degrees or something, and like I'm still pretty comfortable at 60 degrees. So it's like, okay.
I wished I was at 60 degrees. Fuck Jesus Christ, I'm in South Dakota, and it gets down to fucking negative 40. What the son of a bitch. But it's warming up. I got up to 65 today, and I thought I was in a heat wave.
I do have a question for you, Fjrn.
Yes. Everyone pronounces it Fern, but Fjrn is good too. That's the official way to pronounce it. But literally, to make it easy, I just tell everyone to just call me Fern.
Fern, okay.
Fern.
Well, Fern, you mentioned earlier that you've done both fursuiting and as well as you're here in VR. What is the general real life fursuit community with VR furries as well? What are their thoughts from real life into VR? Like the people who are like only in VR for that community.
I feel like that there's generally a very large overlap between really the whole tech community and the furry community has a horrendously oversized overlap, because I feel like I'm the only furry that I know that wasn't into a more technical field, which is interesting, and it puts me in kind of an interesting spot. But as we've gone to conventions and things, we have Megaplex that happens very close to me, which if you plan to ever go to Megaplex, definitely wear your lightest suit if you're from the north, because it's in the middle of summer, and you'll just get murdered because you have to walk between the convention center and the hotel back and forth, and it's a decent walk, and if you're in your fursuit, it is just, sun will just put you on the ground. So but as far as the VR goes, really, we had VR panels at the last couple of shows, and people share their experiences. I've seen more experiences in here with some of the other shows where they have like a screen in VR, and then they have a screen in the convention with each other, or at a very light lag scenario, and I think that that's pretty neat. And there's so much, because there's so many things where you can create your own deal in here. And I think the biggest thing for me is that you're not trapped to your own body in here, like, because I'm very tall and very male in real life. And it was just God given, and so you can't really change that. I can't become 8 inches shorter. I can't like just suddenly have a tiny top and thick hips. I mean, I guess I could pad my hips, but it's not the same as being genuinely small. Oh, and so, in here you really can connect with the small, the big. Like, I've seen people who have very round avatars, people who have very shapely ones, avatars that are distinctly male or female, all in accordance to your wants and needs. And you're not trapped inside your own body, because like someone who has a very large chest has to do the binding, and that's not only is that unhealthy for you, but it's very uncomfortable. And so if you're binding yourself down just to not appear to be as large chested in your fursuit, like, man, it's a long punishment throughout the day just to get an effect. And so I think that this is a lot more freeing than that is, as there is a certain element of a fur convention that you don't get in here. And a lot of it is the tactile sensation, because, if I come up to you and I pet you, unless I've got really great phantom sense, which I don't, then, I don't get the feeling of your fur and your hair on my hands. And then, all I get is a handful of controller. Or where if I'm at the convention, not that you should run up and touch people, the very clear don't do that without asking. But you someone who does let you can handle them and feel what the suit feels like, and what the tactile function is, and as someone who's kind of a little more divergent sided like I am, like, some of those tactiles can feel important. And if you, even if it's just you, if you put the suit on and you can feel your muzzle, you can feel your mouth, you can touch your teeth, okay, and it's obviously a not you experience, and so you're having, but at the same time it still follows you very closely as far as your overall size, and usually it's only just a little bigger than you, if anything. So I think that's kind of where that goes. But I've seen a lot of people who really can have a fursuit that transforms them in a lot closer than what I've been able to get at. And I've had some things. We also do some anime conventions too, and one of the ones that I particularly do in Orlando is Holiday Matsuri, and for quite a few of their shows, I brought along 16-ish foot dinosaurs that would run about the convention, and then we would pass out foam swords for people to beat on them, and kind of a Monster Hunter.
Whoa.
Looks like he's having a little issue there, folks.
I guess so.
Am I?
He's coming back.
Oh, yeah, you were
There
lagging.
he is.
Am I?
He's back.
Okay.
You're back.
Okay.
You were lagging, but you're back. You're back.
I didn't.
You're back.
I didn't feel laggy.
It didn't
Okay.
feel laggy. I didn't come down with the lags. So it sounds
Yeah,
like the shits, but hey, but it's not the lags. It's understandable.
Oh,
Yes. So I guess I'll just re-sentence that. So we would do this Holiday Matsuri convention, and we would bring large dinosaurs to the show that were based on Monster Hunter or the Monster Hunter monsters, and with those we would run around and let people beat them with foam swords, and it's a hell of a deal. Like, and you can't really get something quite like that in here, where you get that really hardcore going at it, and it was generally, a 300-pound me inside that monster skin, and it's not much fun to be the monster. It's really like the enjoyability is knowing that other people are having a good time, not so much that you're having a good time. And it feels like you're fighting for your life. And, maybe you are, but, like, my goodness, it's just really feels like you're fighting for your thing. And so I don't know, but I still really prefer the ability to just kind of come in here at any time and just throw my headset on, my hands and my feet and my waist, and just be like, boom, here I am. I'm like, I can just almost instantly enjoy this. And if I'm ever having a day that's really just kind of beat me up that particular day for whatever reason, and then everyone's got their reasons, you can just kind of come in here and escape yourself fully, and you don't have like, if I think all con goers know post and pre depression that you kind of get whenever you go to a convention. You get this kind of nervousness about going, who's going to be there, who are you going to meet, what's going to happen, are you going to fit in, is your costume going to hold together? All these thoughts are going through your head. You get there, it goes okay or it goes horribly astray, either which way, and you kind of end up, then you get through it and you're done and you're like, man, all I want to do is go back and have it, more good time. And here you can just pop in here, almost any hour of the day. And once you get a reasonable friend set, which I don't think is that hard to get if you're just willing to come out of your shell a little bit, and if you happen to be inside one, and then you can kind of pop forward and go, oh, cool, this person's on or that person's on, and, go visit them, go see them, because, like that, I feel like that's how I ended up here. Or I don't recall exactly when you made it onto my friends list, but you're on it. So, I popped in one morning and I went and seen you, and now we're over here doing this.
Yeah.
So, that was cool. And it was very unexpected. I didn't come over here thinking, I'm going to get on a podcast today. It was, I came in, I was very excited about my avatar, and you're like, hey, let's have you on.
Well, the funny thing is, I think we met. Do you know who Burbo or Narf or Tummy Time is? Are you aware of those
No,
people?
I have no clue.
Where do I meet you? I don't remember. It's been so long.
Don't look at me. I have no fucking clue.
What?
I'm in the dark on this one.
I only remember meeting you because your memory is very clear and distinctive how I met you. You can't forget a 30-minute conversation about shock content of the early 2000s.
Yeah, I think like I think it would shock no one if I told you I have a friends list that's 600 people long. So I don't necessarily know where everyone came from. And, I'm friends with a pretty wide variety of people. And I usually, anyone that I interact with for any more than a few seconds, I usually try to friend them. And it's not to bug them. It's not to stalk everybody or anything like that. It's really just so you can have that kind of group of people that relate to you and you relate to them. So when you do come in here on a day where, your best friends and things aren't necessarily in, that maybe you can, go revisit someone and without a ton of effort, and they go, yeah, I remember you, like, you're a cool person, and then you can hang out for a while, or maybe they ignore you and you just go find somebody else. And I think if you have a lot of these smaller friends, the friends list is very arrangeable. And so I got all my what I call my family list, and so there's about 20 people on there, and those are the people that I bug constantly. And then everyone else is on the other list, and and so if there's no one on from my immediate friends list, then I'll go bug somebody else for a while. And when you first kind of come in here and you're like, man, I don't know anyone, how do I make friends? Visit Worlds, go to the Fur Hub, go to any place that feels like, and if you're not into furries, if for some reason you're watching this and you're not a furry, go to the appropriate anime worlds, go to, your SpongeBob SquarePants world or whatever you like, and you'll find people. And I think that's the best part of this game is it draws all kinds and all types. And if you're in here and you're drawn to it, I feel that you'll also get other people that are similar to you drawn in. And I think you can find people in here so much easier than you can in real life, because you don't have to meet them at the mall or the bar or some hard to get to laborious place. And when people are at conventions and things like we mentioned earlier, a lot of times there's kind of hard cliques that are together, and you see 5 people hanging out together, you're probably not just going to go up to them and hug them and be like, oh man, you guys are great, let's hang out. But in here, for some reason, that works a little easier. You can just kind of come in and go, yeah, we're all kind of the same, and start talking about anything, and they'll open up to you. And for anyone who's like a mute or a silent type person in here, and I know some people have that for physical reasons, and that's okay, but make an attempt to communicate, even if you're just typing it out or whatever. And I think people really appreciate anyone who stretches out to talk to them. And I'm the guy who everyone talks to at the grocery store, and I've always found that very weird. I don't know what's particularly approachable about one of the largest, scariest human beings in Florida, that people just want to come up and talk to me. But they'll start conversations, but I never end up with new friends. I just end up with people who've talked. And so I think it's okay to have those kind of people in here too, where you just kind of randomly run into them and talk. Put them on your friends list, see if they'll accept your request, and if they do, go visit them a couple of times, and you might find out they have more in common with you than you think. And I think that that's a good way to go in here.
I very much agree. I want to ask you another question. What was the moment that got you making worlds and avatars? Like what pulled you into 3D modeling and making things like that?
Yeah, I think the worlds were a necessity, like as we talked about a little bit earlier, because they became like, in order to really have what I needed, and it didn't exist, I had to make it. We did find Stray's Theater, or which is a very difficult to find thing. It's a private world by its own nature, and you need to know how to get there, how to get a show, how to see a show, and I'm not going to give anyone any clues. I'll just tell you, if you're looking for it, you'll find it eventually. But you kind of have to have an in, and I wanted something that was fully accessible to everyone, and that someone who can read the world description can go there and get the secret code to go backstage and start their own deal. And so the show stage isn't exclusive to just me. It's not just private. It's something that anyone can use. And is let's see, my last avatar that I had before this one was the Inflatoroo, and so she's a kangaroo who's also an inflatable pool toy. Okay, and she squeaks when you rub past her, and she's a little curious looking, a little uncanny on purpose, and very kind of a sweet looking character. And one of my close friends kind of said, hey, I kind of want to sculpt the art that you draw all the time into a working model. And I said, okay, let's do that. But, I want to pay you for it. So why don't we sell her? We'll make her good enough to sell, and we'll sell a few, and we'll just split the profits. And so we just kind of went, okay. And that started me down a path. And then I really wanted to speed up this process, and he was really down to do that, but not necessarily ready to do what I needed next. But I didn't know Blender that well, so I was like, like I gotta do something. Like it's driving me nuts, and I don't board. My mind always turns constantly. I dream things. Like it's 100% constant. You picked me good, I think, because you recognized a motor mouth when you saw one, and so there's that too.
Yeah. We
And
know
so-
someone else who's that way too.
You mean the bugs that are down by the light flopping around? Yeah, those
Yes.
mouthy motherfuckers. They talk all the fucking time down there.
Yes,
they can't shut
Raptor.
up.
The
I even
bugs,
give 'em
the
food.
one that's
What?
specifically gray, black, and white. It stands on two paws.
And-
You're not talking about moi. I'm not. I don't want to talk about me. No, I don't want to talk about. Never.
Well, it's no problem because
Boy.
one of the things I very much enjoy is I enjoy hearing from people, their stories, what got them into things, what makes them tick, and I enjoy those things. One of the reasons why I continue pumping out episodes for Metaverse Degen and Raptor and I both, it's the enjoyable part. It's one of the most VR chat things you can
Right.
do is just talking with people.
Yeah, and so I really, I wanted to make it really kind of led me down a rabbit hole where I wanted to make characters that are either non-subpar or just plainly missing. And so so we landed on the kobold after a couple other things, and I had built like about 4 models. And as I was getting together, I kind of was like, I need this. Like, it just became this sudden, instantaneous need to have a really good kobold. So I did my research, and there is lots of other kobolds. There's probably about 20 or so other different ones that you could go get. And I was like, but I want one that really feels like the artwork or that you see from various artists. Say Wasp Salad is probably one of the best kobold artists out there, and I didn't want to do exactly his art. I wanted to do how my mind's eye remembers his artwork when I'm not looking at it. So that's exactly how I built this, was by looking at some of his artwork and then going in and building this based on the memory stance. And so she ended up with much larger thighs and maybe a lot of similarities otherwise, but that's how my mind saw it. And then of course, when you go back and look at it and you compare the two, you go, well, I'm definitely way off, but it is how my mind saw the art. And do a lot of art things myself, and so it's kind of a combo between what I draw and what they draw and some of the other influences I've seen around. Because there was a whole conversation in our chat room one night as even what is a kobold, and if you look that up, they range from a very D&D like little dirty mini dragon to like a dog or a rat or a kind of lizard type of being. And I was like, well, I really want it to be what I think it is. And as a tabletop gamer myself, if I wanted something that I would be willing to print this as a mini and stick on the table and go, that's my character and that's what they look like. And so I felt that it's important that it kind of do that. It kind of look that way, feel that way. And I think I ended up hopefully in other people's opinion too, but more so mine, with one of the better looking kobolds you could probably get in the game. And she is more stylized, I think, towards a D&D type aesthetic with the clothing and almost more so this absolutely ridiculous tentacle weapon and that built. And so it kind of whips absolutely everywhere. And so, like that just feels like something that would come straight. Oh, I'll get it back out if you want to get a better shot of it. But like, if you, ever played any D&D and have a ridiculous DM that will just let you do the dumbest things, this is like it. And you can grab it and bend it up and deform it, and really like it just chases all over the place. It's got an absolute mind of its own. And so it's a ton of fun and to play with and just have. And it just kind of brings that stupid tabletop feel right into this game too. So you can kind of see where I'm taking all the parts, from the childhood fantasies to the D&D fantasies, the inside the video games, and the movies, and just kind of compress it all into one huge multitude of experiences that I don't think you can get any other way other than playing some.
Whoops.
It is having
Whoopsie.
Nope.
some problem.
What?
There, he's coming. He's getting there.
No, I'm still here. I'm still here. Woo, woo.
He's still
I
there.
think I'm still here.
Oh,
Yeah, you're still here.
oh. How long did it take you
Needed
to
a drink of water.
how long did it take you to develop and build the kobold avatar you're in right now?
So the general synopsis is it took me 1 day to build the body, a whole other day to do the hands and feet. It took me 4 days to get the head together, and then the rest of it was spent weight painting and doing the Unity package, which were done simultaneously, which is the worst way to possibly try to do it. It was an altogether about 2 to 2.5 weeks, and that wasn't rushing her out. I just happened to have kind of a block off of work, so we spent almost every waking hour in chat sitting there. We had 3 different people building 3 different avatars and just bouncing ideas back and forth off of each other. And so, yeah, like when I say the body was done in 1 day, I mean like 16 hours worth of 1 day.
Oh,
like well beyond like the average thing. And then as soon as we got her weight painted well enough to work in the game, we're bringing her in, we're putting her through the paces with the FBT and non-FBT to see how it works, putting her into the MMD worlds to see her dance and like get a better overall look and see what needs to be fixed. And one of our little secret chat rooms in my Discord is literally called "We Hate Weight Paint," and it's like
It's got a lot
It
of
is-
lead in it. Just goes straight to the bottom of the ocean. Nobody cares. It just comes up. It's all called multiple colors.
It's the room that we use whenever we don't feel like being public facing when we're doing stuff, and there's just a small team of us that are in there that will be using that room at any given time. And usually about 3 or 4 people, and we just kind of hang out in there. And oftentimes somebody's playing music, we're being very quiet and having that kind of friendship you only have with the closest of people, where it's okay to just sit there and not talk for once and be quiet and just concentrate hard on what you're doing. But then you can go, hey man, do you think this looks okay? And they'll look at it and go, gross, what are you doing? And you're like, okay, I've been working on this for 6 hours, man. Like, you could have told me 4 hours ago that this was looking terrible. And then just kind of bounce those kind of things.
You know what they happen when they say that? You didn't ask.
Right, yeah.
You didn't ask.
Ask,
shit.
and ye shall be insulted. I think
Yeah, no shit. I'll agree with you there.
indeed. It's not a real
Oh,
friendship
boy.
until you're insulting each other. At least that's what I think.
That's right.
Yep.
For sure.
Indeed.
But
Well, thank you very much, Fjrn, for speaking with us and letting us get to speak with you and get
You're
to know
welcome.
you over this last hour and 20
yes.
minutes. So thank you. Where can people find you if they wish to find you?
You can actually look me up pretty easily if you just look up my name, FJRN, and you can find me on Slime servers. And I'm also known as this very short name. It's much shorter than Fjrn. It's the full word Mr. Bluntertainment, which is my branding for all of my stuff. So you can just actually Google that, or you could Google easily KC the Kobold or the Inflatoroo as one word, and all of those things will lead you to the things I do, and I'm easy to find, and I'm just Fjrn in Discord if you want to join any of the Discords we're in, or have access to any of those things, and I'm pretty easy to find. I make myself very accessible for people who want things with or from me. Hey, so
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, everybody, be sure to go down and check the Hoobly What's at all the links will be down there for you. Raptor, you know the thing.
No matter what, you can have 3 people in here and end up with 2 extra that are roaming around like lost animals in the background. You know who you 2 are. Come here, you 2. You come here. Come here. Get it. Now, over here. You got to get the camera. Don't hide behind people. The cat's over there lost. I think he's spacing off. And everything else like this. He's peeking. We appreciate folks, no matter what we do, the cat's got to come around. Kitty. Come on,
Before we're done, can we kick old man Raptor off the wall, though? I mean,
sure. What a good way to end it.
You ready?
Whoa. Oh, God. Here we go.
There we go. Now that's a good end to an episode.